Hey kids, it's Triple Feature Tuesday, and this week we're gonna look at bigger jerks than Jason Voorhees. Sorry about last week. Between all of the killer clowns and all the Halloween festivities, it got the better of me and I just needed to take a little break. But we're back, and just in time, because this week, Friday the 13th, the last Friday the 13th of 2015. But don't worry, there's always going to be another Friday the 13th. We get one in 2017 in May, so we'll have to make the most of that. We were kind of lucky this year, ironically, in that we had 3 different Friday the 13ths, which is really, really great. And also, making my job more and more difficult, because it's kind of difficult to come up with a distinct triple feature theme based on the same series of movies over and over and over again. And I've no one to blame but myself, because I keep watching these movies over and over and over again every time there's a Friday the 13th. We're going to look at characters in Friday the 13th films that are bigger jerks than Jason. And understand that Jason is, of course, the biggest jerk ever, because he'll just kill you for no reason whatsoever. Basically, the reason is you met Jason, and that is why. I mean, some people like to foist morality onto it, and that may have been the way in the beginning, but really, if Jason meets you, he's going to kill you, just because he's Jason. However, there are characters in these movies that are somehow, more annoying, in that they end up causing Jason to meet people. They end up accidentally making Jason's job easier and being real pricks about it at the same time. So we're going to look at some of the worst. The order of these movies, we will be going in increasing order of intentional harm done to people. Going from, incompetence to actively harming our characters through their own actions and then eventually through Jason. So our menu is going to include Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason X, and Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, Jason Takes Manhattan is a weaker entry in the Friday the 13th series. It is the one whose box office was so poor that it led to Paramount finally selling Jason Voorhees to New Line Cinemas. But before then, Jason crashed a high school graduation party cruise from scenic Crystal Lake, New Jersey to New York City. One of the 2 administrative teacher type people, it's never really clear what he is Charles McCullough, played by Peter Mark Richmond, is a jerk. I mean, he's like, you get the feeling he was born with that puss on his face, and like from the minute he's introduced, he's just being mean to everybody, especially his niece, Rennie. Rennie lost her parents, and he is, unfortunately, her only living relative and legal guardian. And he's just perpetually being mean to her. I love it. Rennie has this recurring subplot of being afraid of the water. She can't swim. And unlike any other parent, he is perpetually getting her to not face her fear and grow up. She is like, no, she must be protected. Why is she here? I'm pretty sure his first line to her is some variation of, what are you doing here? It's like, she's graduating and it's a party. Have fun. So when everything starts going wrong, Charles McCullough doesn't exactly cause deaths. He doesn't put people in harm's way, but there is an aggressive nature to his incompetence that one could argue is causing people to die, because every time the characters make a plan to hunt down Jason or stop the ship or try to make contact, he is perpetually poo-pooing everything and just negging up the joint, to the point that after the ship has sank, Jason sank this cruise liner, killing all but 3 of the graduating class of Crystal Lake High School, or wherever the hell it was. They are on a boat in the middle of the water, trying to make their way to, land. And he is perpetually sniping at Sean, the son of the captain, who might be able to use a GPS machine to get them on a route to get back to New York. He is constantly berating him the whole time. Meanwhile, Sean and the fantastic Julius are the only ones rowing this boat. He's taken the responsibility of manning the tiller, but they're doing literally all the work, and all he can do is complain. They get to New York. They get to the docks, which, as you can imagine, the docks of pre-Juliana New York are pretty horrible. And the minute they get on land, it's like, great place, great spot you picked for us to land. And it's like, oh my God, you are the worst human being. And then we find out through flashbacks that he's even worse than we thought. The reason Rennie is afraid of the water is because he forced her to try to learn to swim on Crystal Lake by kicking her out of the rowboat and then not helping her at all. And then maybe Jason actually grabbed her under the water, but still, he is directly responsible for this childhood phobia she has not been able to conquer. It's terrible! And thus, when he gets what Jason has coming for him, it's really quite wonderful. You see him get chased, thrown out of a window, and then drowned on land in a oil barrel full of something. It comes out, it's green, it's viscous, it's horrible, and it's probably better than, we'll go with maybe Vice Principal Charles McCullough deserved. Next up, we have the gift that keeps on giving, the veritable cornucopia that is Jason X. Taking place in the far future, Earth is an inhospitable wasteland, but history professors are still bringing students to not only Earth, but New Jersey, trying to find artifacts of a bygone era that they can turn into some sort of history lesson or cachet. Think, archaeology, but much, much more interesting, and yet at the same time not, because it's all our crap. Anyway, Professor Lowe, played by Canadian voice actor extraordinaire Jonathan Botts, has brought his students to the site of the former Crystal Lake Research and or Execution Center, where they had tried and failed to execute Jason several times over. Jason and our hero, Rowan, played by Lexa Doig, got frozen years and years and years and years ago, and they are somehow still in pretty good suspended animation. So the professor figures, hey, let's bring these two corpsicles on board and see if we can revive them and or make money. They, of course, don't think they can revive Jason, who appears to be deader than shit. Rowan is successfully revived and immediately tells them that they should throw Jason out the nearest airlock, preferably in the direction of the closest star. Professor Lowe, having done a little research and or FaceTimed with an unsavory character, played by the always great Ron Silverman, figure that the corpse of Jason Voorhees is worth tons and tons and tons of money, and so we'll just keep it. It's a corpse. It's not going to do anything, right? Rowan explains that he cannot die. He just keeps coming back to life, but Professor Lowe doesn't believe him. And so, when Jason inevitably comes back to life and starts killing all the soldiers on board and all of the students, Vince sort of accidentally on purpose destroying a whole space colony full of millions and millions of people, Professor Lowe is completely confused and horrified. Professor Lowe straddles that line between incompetence and actual intention. He wanted Jason, but he honestly didn't think it was going to cause any harm. And can you blame him? I mean, corpses don't come back to life. And so, nobody in the theater is particularly sad when Professor Lowe meets his fate at the end of Jason's Machete. But we are laughing hysterically because he has one of the best lines in the whole movie. It's the bit where he is calling out to his students that it's okay, Jason just wanted his machete back. And oh, he did. And he immediately killed Professor Lowe. Kind of gruesome sounding. It's off screen, but you hear his screaming, which was totally deserved because he is responsible for the deaths of millions and millions of people. Because, not necessarily because he brought Jason on board, but because he didn't take Rowan, who, is a first-hand observer of the incident, did not take her seriously at all. Stupid, stupid Professor Lowe. Charles McCullough and Professor Lowe sort of pale in comparison to Dr. Cruz in Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, a.k.a. Jason versus Carrie. Dr. Cruz is the psychiatrist that is supposed to be helping Tina Shepard, our telekinetic girl with "I sort of killed my abusive alcoholic father with my telekinesis" issues. What becomes apparent fairly quickly is that Dr. Cruz is not even remotely interested in treating Tina's neuroses. He is interested in the telekinesis and the mind over matter powers that Tina has, and as a result builds his therapy strategies around verbally and mentally abusing this poor, troubled teenage girl. Takes on new levels of horribleness when he intentionally hides evidence of Jason being around. Now, he doesn't know that it's Jason, but Tina is insisting there is some sort of killer out there, and here is physical proof of it, and he makes sure to hide that so nobody knows what's going on, so he can keep driving this girl, who is already kind of batty, completely insane. You know, for science. Eventually he gets caught, maliciously threatens to have Tina committed against her mother's will because, you know, he can do that because he's a doctor. Tina runs off. Tina's mom and Dr. Cruz, who I haven't mentioned is played by Terry Kaiser. Really great comedic actor who's most famous, of course, for playing Bernie during both Weekend at Bernie's film. Dr. Cruz and Tina's mom are running around in the woods where, of course, they meet Jason. You actually see Dr. Cruz grab Tina's mother and throw her at Jason to delay his own horrible end, which it does, but, as I said, only delays, because Jason immediately gets him with some sort of power buzzsaw, which is one of the few, if only, instances of Jason actually using power tools. He's more of a... he likes to think of himself as the machine, driving the blades in. But Dr. Cruz violating his Hippocratic oath with Tina and then just leading to the deaths of everybody there, because they could have been more aware of what was going on if he hadn't been more interested in promoting himself through, through freak show science. So, bigger jerks than Jason Voorhees, Charles McCullough in Jason Takes Manhattan, Professor Lowe in Jason X, and Dr. Cruz in Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. I will be, of course, watching oodles of Friday the 13th movies on Friday. I hope you will do the same, and I'll see you guys next week.